Welcome, everyone. This is the Profitable Steward podcast. It's also, we're recording this as a live webinar. So we welcome the guests that are here live, those that are listening in, and let you know that we're going to be on a monthly cadence going into 2026. We're going to do these in the middle of the month. And so look for that. If you've registered for this, you'll get upcoming invitations to these webinars that we host. And the purpose of this is to be able to educate you, provide a community in the regenerative agriculture space, and realize that you're not alone. My name is Jared Sorensen. So this is a webinar and a podcast. You can catch the replay on our YouTube channel, The Profitable Ag Steward, or wherever you get your podcasts on The Profitable Steward. And to be able to help the movement to progress, please like and share that. Subscribe to our channel. That's really helpful. As I was going through the analytics at the end of the year, we just reached 1,000 downloads, which you can't say, well, hey, we've gone viral, but we're consistent. We're consistent, and we're really grateful for you guys as listeners for listening in and for sharing it. And we want to continue to add value to this community. It's what we're called to do, and we're committed to that. Okay, so quick poll here for those that are on here live. Can you guys see that? You can see that okay, right, Mike?
I can see it. Yes, sir.
Okay, so just 1 to 5, put in here what best describes your operation. 1 is row crop only or farming. 2 is livestock only. 3 is mixed. 4 is custom leased ground, and 5 would be other. So just, okay, so we got some 2, 3, 1. Okay, other. Okay, another other. So 5. And if you want to add more context to what that other is, feel free to do that. And we do go back and review the transcript from this. So that's helpful. Okay, the next question. Let's see that. I think that fits all onto one page there, right? 6 questions there. What is your biggest soil health bottleneck right now? So number 1 would be compaction / infiltration. Number 2 would be weeds. 3, yield, protein inconsistency. 4 would be fertility costs. 5, marketing and contracts. And 6, you don't even know where to start. So on that second question there, question number 2. So it looks like it's kind of all across the board also. I think for me, it would be, so I'll go back and answer those. We're largely livestock producers on our operation here in northeastern Nevada. We custom graze, do minimal farming. It's mostly grazing. We do have some high production, relatively high production irrigated land, and most of the time we intensive graze that. Oh, very good. Very, very good. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. And we're going to introduce Mike Robinson here. He's our guest speaker. He's been a subscriber and kind of been checking in with what we're doing at Ag Steward. We do these educational events, offer coaching and consulting for families within regenerative agriculture, and we do virtual summits. Our goal with Ag Steward, that's the name of our company, is to help family farmers and ranchers be highly profitable, regenerate the land that they steward, and create legacy businesses. And we do that by providing accountability and plugging into a community of committed entrepreneurial regenerative agriculturalists who largely are faith-based community, who believe that God has given us stewardship over these resources and that one day we'll be accountable to Him for those things that we've been given. And it's an honor to be able to serve this community. We, just salt of the earth people. Really love this. I grew up, I'm a 3rd generation. We're raising the 4th generation. My wife and I have 9 children, and we do ranch in the high desert of Nevada. It's been a little bit different year this year. We have never had cattle turned out in January before in North Ruby Valley. I don't think ever in history you could have. This year, it's been a really mild winter, and we stockpiled a lot of feed over the summer. And so we're still grazing and just feeding alfalfa for supplement every 2 or 3 days. So a little bit different year for us here. And that's the neat thing about regenerative agriculture is we can be adaptive, and we have to be. We have to be from one year to the next. So Mike, go ahead and let these folks know where you are from.
I'm from Southeast Idaho. I'm a 4th generation farmer. My father is very much a conventional farmer. He likes to till, likes to use a lot of fertilizer, herbicide, and there is no livestock on the farm currently.
Yeah. So what's the nearest town to where you guys live?
The nearest town's Roberts, and actually claim Idaho Falls. It's it's a town that more people are familiar with.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We're familiar. I found out from your email that we both went to the same school. Back in the day, it was called Ricks College. Now it's BYU Idaho. What years were you there?
I was there from 97 to 99.
Okay, so we just kind of missed each other. I was there one semester in 96, met my wife, and we never made it back. My dad invited us to stay home and help on the ranch that fall semester, and we didn't ever quite make it back to school, but we've gotten one heck of an education, and it's been expensive. But the school of hard knocks the tuition for that is pretty expensive. So yeah, we were just a year apart there. Okay, so let's kind of start with your story. So, when did you first start to question that something was off? Like maybe the conventional approach doesn't have all the answers.
I came back to the farm in 2017. My father he's getting older. He's now in his mid 80s, and I was in a different career, and I was looking to make a change. And so I guess the stars aligned, and we decided to see if it would work that I would just learn under him and farm. And so I started learning the way he's been doing it for many, many years. And really quickly, I began to understand that things things didn't work quite right. For example, when you plant wheat, then when it's flowering, the conventional wisdom around here is that you fly out on or that you irrigate on the extra nitrogen to build the protein. You would think that every year, if you timed it the same time and you put on the same nitrogen, that you would get the same outcome. And that's not the case at all. Some years you had high protein and some years you didn't. And we're high desert and we have to irrigate for the majority of the year. And when we irrigate, we can only put down about a half inch of moisture or it will run. It won't even soak into the ground. And I would think that if you till the ground and you rip the ground, that the water should go in easily. And that was also not the case. So there was things that came along as I was farming with him that just didn't make sense over time.
Yeah. What I guess for a little bit of context, you got the slides going in the background there, and feel free to comment on any of those as they come up. What were the crops that your dad was growing?
We used to grow potatoes, and then back in 2008, decided that they would stop growing potatoes. It was getting hard to find people to come work during potato harvest, and potatoes takes a lot of money and a lot of water. Right now in this area, water is sparse, and so he decided to quit growing potatoes and he moved strictly to grains. He grew hard red wheat, malt barley, certified canola seed, things that we could grow under the constraints of how much water we would have for the year.
Okay. Yeah. And how would you best describe that operation from, I guess I'm thinking more from a profitability and from a quality of life standpoint. Did you feel like was it profitable, and were you guys happy doing what you were doing?
It is profitable, and he's very happy with the way things have turned out for his career and how he's been farming. For me, I like to understand how things work and how they all tie together because things weren't matching up for me. I decided that I needed to do something different. So I manage about 3/4 of his ground, and then he leases to me 100 acres that I'm allowed to do whatever I want on it. And so I struck out to see what other options there were in order to see how it could be. And it's gotten better for me. I've enjoyed farming a lot more since I've moved more towards the soil health part of things. In the beginning, I realized that all of my schooling was in something different, and so I decided to reach out to the alma mater to see if I could get some extra education in soil and irrigation, and I met with them, and they determined that because I already had degrees that they wouldn't be able to help me, and so the person I was talking to, he suggested two things. Either I could go to the Southern Idaho College, where they taught basically the same cultural program, or I could watch videos online.
Uh-huh.
And so I chose option B, and I started watching videos and started to pick through and understand how other people were doing things. And so I decided, well, I want to try this out. And so I went to the NRCS office and I said I would like to see what's offered and what help I can get. And so they walked me through the program, got me signed up, and I was signed up for cover crops and for soil testing and for minimum tillage.
And that was what year did that
That
start into that?
was in 23. My father was leasing the ground to another farmer, and then I took over the lease in 23. And the previous farmer, his previous crop was potatoes. And so when I took over in this area, when the majority of farmers, when they grow a potato crop, they either in the fall or in the spring, they will fumigate the soil and kill the majority of the biology in order to protect the yield of the potato and also the shape of the potato is the major reason they're
Okay.
mainly going after nematodes, but it essentially kills pretty much everything in the soil. So when I took over, I was starting it at base zero.
Yeah.
And from there, I have been blessed to have people come in my life that would help me understand and help me to further my journey through soil health and bringing the soil back to a state where it will accept water and that it will grow a fertile crop and increase the fertility of what comes off the field.
Okay. Who would you say has been the greatest influence on you from the videos that you've watched or classes that you might have attended?
One of the videos that really stuck out to me was one that was on Ag Steward podcast. It was given by William. He went through some of the things that I hadn't thought of before, and I just had that light bulb moment where, as he was explaining it, it made sense to me about succession and the different things that nature uses and the path that it follows as it goes through. And so, and in the background is this these pictures that are coming up. These are the 3 years that I've leased this ground and showing the different things that have happened on the farm and what I've been doing and how it's turned out for me.
Yeah. And so is this a cash crop or cover crop?
This is a cash crop, and I've been blessed to live right in the heart of Anheuser-Busch country, and so I've been able to pick up malt barley contracts, and so that's mainly what I've grown. The first crop was right after the potatoes was a winter wheat. Winter was not good, and so I ended up having to replant to a spring soft white wheat, and then from there it's been barley
Okay.
for the next 2 years.
And between crops, are you doing a cover crop? Yep.
Yes. I started out with the NRCS asking questions and trying to figure out things that I could grow. I would mix in one or two grasses in, and then the rest would be broadleafs. And then I learned pretty quickly that I wasn't doing as good of a combine job as I thought I was, and so I leave a little in the soil in the field unintentionally. So then when I go to make a cover crop mix, I will do mainly broadleaves because I can count that there will be grass that will be coming up in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Um, so if you are transitioning from the conventional approach, high tillage, high dependence on synthetic fertilizers and herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, What would you say is the biggest difference to contrast the way things were done to what you're now doing?
I have really tried hard to cut back on to do the necessary. So I only till one time in the year, and that's at planting. And while I'm planting, I'm it's a tillage and a plant. It's all one pass
Okay.
and done. Because the way that it's done, that we have been doing it on all the other ground is it gets mulched, it gets disked, it may get disked again multiple times across the ground. And seems like as the conventional side is profitable and it does create a cash crop, it seems as though maybe sometimes we do things that aren't necessary. We want it to look a certain way or we want it to behave a certain way. I do less and I have a better outcome. And so I have more time to do different things or to more time to go into the field, look at how things are going. And I really enjoy that, being able to test it every day, every other day, every third day, go in, see how it's progressing, what the plant is doing, what the soil is doing. Is it moving in the direction that I had anticipated? Do I need to make changes? So
Hmm.
I'm constantly testing the crop and the soil to see what is happening because I want to be doing things that are good for the soil and are progressing towards a more healthy soil and a more healthy crop.
Yeah. And when you say you're testing, you kind of walk through. I know you do some penetration, Brix testing, gauge
Yeah.
electrical conductivity. What's kind of the test that you have in your toolbox?
So I want to see where the hard pan is. I want to see what the depth that the roots are able to get. Is it getting deeper? So I do test the soil compaction and I also probe for the moisture at the time. I measure what the temperature of the soil is because I know that we want to keep it down around 65, 70 degrees to so that the biology stays active. And I test the Brix of the plant and I've had some really good luck with the crop and the Brix readings that I'm getting. And I'm also testing the pH of the sap and the electrical conductivity of the sap. And it's amazing how plants will take their environment and they will change it. They will use energy and they will change it to put it to a state where they are able to um, be a better producer and to grow in a more healthy state.
Yeah. How do you manage that data without being overwhelmed?
I find a calendar and I take it with me into the field. And when I do the data testing, I write it down on the day that I did it.
Okay.
And I try to test at the same time, which is in the afternoon. The farm is several miles away, and so I visit it every day or every other day, one time.
Hmm.
And so that I just try and pick the same time every day that I go and test it to see what's happening, write it down, see what's been happening in the past and how the trend is working.
Hmm. Okay. And as you're testing and monitoring, are there any red flags that you look for? Anything that's like an indicator, like, wow, we got to change and we got to do it now?
Oh, yes. Yeah. This last year, 25 is specifically had a great start, a great planting. It got off to a good start and it was doing really well and it was pulling a Brix of 17,
Wow.
which is
That's
really quite good. Everything was looking really good. And then came time to spray for the herbicide and with barley, uh, in this area, we do use a growth regulator because barley can get tall and it can get heavy and large, and so we try to prevent that as much as we can. And so I went ahead and I sprayed, And within hours, I went from a Brix of 17 to a Brix of 4. And then I started to look at the crop and see how there was some severe chemical burn on the plants. And so I talked to some advisors that I have, and decisions were quickly made. And we changed to a different watering style. And there's a new product called Living Water, and it allows you to essentially put biology on the field every time that you irrigate. So then I was testing it after the fact, and I could watch the Brix come up, and I can watch the plant snap out of the chemical burn and start to be more healthy.
Well, so talk a little bit about what that looks like. What biology, and is it a extract? Is it a compost tea? And how are you applying that?
It's really quite new. That what they what they do is you put a IBC tote next to where you want to inject the biology into. Quite often they put it right next to a center pivot
Hmm.
irrigation. I was injecting mine right into the main line, right as it came out of the pump, because I'm a deep well
Okay.
irrigation, and so I was injecting it right in. They provide you with a packet that contains both fungal and bacterial biology, as well as the food to feed it. And it's dry, and you fill the tote with water, and then there's an aerator and a recirculation pump to keep everything aerobic. And you make a slurry out of the dry mix, and then you pour it into the IBC tote, and immediately the populations of the biology start to propagate. And then as you turn your irrigation system on, there's a injection pump that turns on, injects it right into the main line and right out through the irrigation system. So each time you irrigate your field, you are refreshing the biology and putting new biology on.
Okay. Awesome. And so that you were able to watch the Brix rebound then after that
Bricks.
herbicide burned down. And were you able to ever get back up into those double digits again?
Oh yes, yeah. I was able to get back up into the teens and high teens
Nice.
in the Brix, and then it was suggested that I test the head. I had never thought of doing that before, and so the heads had just headed out, and the heads were young, and so I ended up crushing a head and getting some sap out of it, and the sap and the head tested at 19 Brix.
Okay. Yeah. And for those who may not know what that is, you can go and research it. I first learned about Brix testing from Nicole Masters at a class that I was attending. And it's just basically measurement of the sugars in the plant, right?
It is, yeah. As the plant is photosynthesizing and it's creating the sugars, and it's using some of it for its own energy and its own growth, and then it's also putting some of that down into the soil to feed the biology in order to make an exchange. It is producing the sugars to exchange with the biology for the nutrients that it needs.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. Thank you for that explanation. As you were going down this process, what did you see that changed first that gave you the indicator like you're on the right path? Was it the soil compaction lessening? Were the plants responding? Were you getting better water infiltration, less weeds, increased yield? What was the early indicator like, hey, I think this is going to work?
When I first started, right after that potato crop the previous year, I started it more of a conventional lane, and then I was needing to spray the crop, and there's an old fence that's along the edge that's just an old barbed wire fence that has no purpose, and so I needed to move one of the fence posts in order to move the spray rig through. And as I was digging this fence post out, I was noticing that the soil was incredibly easy to move a shovel through. And I thought, what is going on? And so I would reach down in there and grab a handful, and I could see that worm channels were in it, that had actual structure to the soil, and I could see the worm castings in it. And this is a spot on the farm that doesn't receive anything, doesn't receive any fertility, doesn't have any traffic, nothing special about it. But I could see that the soil was much different than what was in the fields. I came back with a test of compaction and I put the probe in and it just sunk right to the top of the probe. So it's about 2.5 feet. It just sunk right in very easily, never breaking 150 psi. And it was right then that I knew that it's possible that this field can actually get there, that soil health is possible to do. And so I just need to figure out how to get from what its current state is and to what this looked like right on the edge of the field.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's neat to have those fence line comparisons, whether that's different in management, range ground versus farm ground, or specifically right underneath the fence where there's, you would say, no management, right? And oftentimes I've found the same thing on our ranch, that's where you have the best soil. And so it's an indicator like, hey, we're doing something wrong here. If nature can create good soil on its own, then how come we're creating compaction and we're creating weeds and bare ground? So transitioning to the cover crops and the additional practices based on principles that you're applying on the farm now, what are your metrics for determining a cover crop mix?
I took the advice of the NRCS, the people in the NRCS, to put together my first cover crop mix, being brand new to it. And I wrote down the goals that I wanted the cover crop to accomplish and then approached the NRCS with it. So then we sat down and we started looking at the different options that would be available to fix the different goals that I had in mind. And the first mix that I put in went in at over 40 pounds to the acre because I was new. I had no idea. And so it came up very thick. It wasn't too long before it was freezing. So the cover crop didn't get very large. It came in really thick. And as I've gone further, I've sat down with AI and I wrote down every single weed that I found on that field. And then I asked AI to show me what the different plant families were for all of the different weeds. And then I narrowed it down to all the plant families that were on the field. And then I just started looking for the plants that fit in those plant families that had the characteristics that I wanted. And so I figured if the weeds were coming in and they were doing a job, why can't I pick the plants that I want that can do the same job?
That is that is pretty genius. I hope you guys caught that. The weeds are there for a reason, and when we fill the need, then they don't have to be there. That's
They're
yeah,
there to show you, they're there to fix a problem, whatever that problem is. And then if you can figure out what that is, then you can work towards fixing that problem on your own so that they're no longer necessary. And also, Jared, I want to add another thing that's shown to me as to why I'm on a good path is when I first started irrigating the field for the first year, I could only put on half an inch of water each irrigation time. And a half inch is not very much, and so you have to run the irrigation system quite a bit in order to keep the water levels to the point that they need to be. And this last season, year 25, I was able to get up to 3/4 of an inch per revolution. And at one point, I pushed it to an inch just to see if it would take it. And it took it, took all of it. At no point did any of the water ever run. And because I'm able to put on more water in a revolution, the ground seems to be able to soak it in and hold it for a longer period of time before I need to do the next revolution, which helps me in that I don't have to run those center pivots so often. And then I cut down on the maintenance of the center pivots.
yeah, yep, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And one of those things that we don't maybe stop and think when we're in that conventional mindset, right? And so here in the West, water is a big deal, and it's becoming a bigger deal throughout the whole world, but especially here in the West. Let's move to to the economics and some of the constraints in transitioning to regenerative agriculture. One of the common complaints that we get is that people would say, I would like to do organic, I would like to do regenerative, but I can't suffer the yield loss until I make that transition. A lot of times the bankers aren't necessarily going to hang with them either, because, they have operating loans and mortgages that need to be paid. And how did the economic side of it work out for you?
Well, because I partnered with the NRCS, their payment system worked very well for me. I could purchase a cover crop seed, plant it, and water it with, have to turn on a deep well pump and everything, water it up, get it going, all with the funds that I was receiving from the NRCS. So even to the point that I could do all of that. And I purchased, you'll see in the pictures, you'll see the big blue Lemkin drill. I was able to have even money left over to help purchase that drill
Okay.
in order to keep going. So yes, it is an added expense, and it is something that needs to be in the budget to be carefully considered. But the benefits that come from doing that, from putting it in, from seeing the changes that are made with the soil and the added benefit of the health of the soil seems to offset what's happening as far as the cost of putting the cover crop in and doing the testing and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that a lot of farmers this last year complained that they weren't making money. There were very few cash crops that they could plant that showed a positive profit margin, unless they were some type of specialty crop or unless they were organic. And so, can you speak to that a little bit? How do regenerative practice help even out that swing in commodity prices?
The ability to so having the NRCS help me get going, and then on top of that, there are some companies do give an extra onto the contract in order to help some offset some of the costs that you are doing with the regenerative, with the soil health. And it's not overly an amount, but it is enough that it helps to offset some of the costs of doing that. And you can also save quite a bit by you're cutting down the amount of times that you go across the field. So
Hmm.
that's less fuel and less maintenance, less labor that you're expending in order to build the soil. Your cost of producing the crop, the cash crop, can go down a little because you will see that the water usage and the ability to retain water and keep it there for the crop increases. And so you're able to reduce some of the inputs that you have into the crop. The conventional wisdom here for a grain crop is they use a 1-to-1 ratio. If you want 130 bushel of barley, you put on 130 units of nitrogen. And I have been able to, it is settled out to where I am about a 0.7-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
And I get the same amount of photosynthesis and plant health and yield of the crop and everything, but I am reducing my fertilizer inputs to the point that I can offset some of the costs of putting in the cover crop and doing some of the testing that I do.
Yeah. And so, does that help? And you mentioned that you've out profited your dad, conventional versus your regenerative. Um, I imagine it's a combination of different things, maybe not one single thing, but what would you say led to that?
For one thing, the added benefits that I get from having it being a regenerative soil health farmer and having that little extra given on the contract from who I'm growing it for. Then um, on top of that, the yield is been more than what he has been yielding, and yield turns into profit. And so as I've been doing this, yes, I have been able to out yield him and out profit him.
Yeah, that is really cool. That's a great testimonial and a real world up to date example of that it can be done and it can be done at scale. So maybe more to the human side of things here. What's been the hardest part relationally, especially when a lot of people think we're the village idiot when we go and we buck the system and do things different?
I don't have too many conversations with my father,
Okay.
especially over it. This farm is in a very visible spot. It sits right next to the freeway, major traveled highway, railroad. Many people see it on a daily basis, and they do not hesitate to call me and give me their opinion on what they think that I should be doing.
Hmm.
And you take it with a grain of salt. It's not as though they are doing it to be harmful or to spite you. They're doing it from a place of concern and a place of they want to see you succeed. They don't truly understand what you're trying to accomplish, and so you let them have their say of what they want to say to you, and take it for what it's worth. And then you, on your own or with help from those that do understand what you're trying to do, you can put together a game plan and see the benefit of what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's been times because I test the chlorophyll count of the leaves, direct correlation to how much nitrogen is in the plant, and the it's often called a SPAD reading. And usually in the springtime, I'll get calls from people who will be passing by, and they will call me up and tell me that the grain looks a little light in color.
Uh-huh.
They say you better get some nitrogen on there, and then I'll say okay, thanks, and then I'll hop across the fence to the neighbor who's got this big, luscious, nice crop of hard red wheat, and I'll test his leaves, and it has the same rating, and he puts on a lot more fertility than I do. And so it's not necessarily the color or the things that people are looking at. You need to test the actual plant to see if is it deficient or is it not deficient. And that every year it's been going up in readings, and I do not suffer at all for having used less nitrogen for that season.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good testament that, hey, this actually does work. Probably a couple more questions that we have here on discussion points, and then we'll wrap up and we'll open it up for Q&A for those that are here live. For somebody who is already farming and is just starting into the regenerative, what would you recommend? Where do they start?
The first place that I would start would be I would go to the NRCS and see what they provide and what they're suggesting, and then to go and look at, is there anybody locally that's doing farming similar to what you want to do?
Hmm.
And they don't have to be somebody that's been doing it for 40 years or knows everything. You're looking for someone to bounce ideas off of, to see what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. A lot of times for instance, in Idaho, there's a Regenerative Network of Idaho, which brings together people who are looking for soil health regeneration, and you'll be able to they'll put you in touch with people that are trying to do similar things and attend their soil health conferences and livestock. Look for those meetings that are going to talk about things that you're interested in, that you want to try, and go attend them. And more often than not, if you spend some time to talk with the people there, you'll start to make friends and find people that want to share what they know.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, definitely. As you improve your education, things will come a lot easier. You're still going to have some maybe epic failures once in a while. Has there been anything that stands out to you as like, man, I wouldn't do that again, or don't try that because I already tried it and it didn't work?
I've been very lucky that I haven't had any train wrecks
Okay.
as I've gone through. One thing that stands out in my mind is I did use that Limken drill in the beginning to plant one of the cover crops, and I did till I put the tillage down a little bit just to kind of break up the hard packed soil and be able to plant the seed. And I've come to figure out that that's more harm than good, because at that point of the year you've got a good fungal count, and good biology house for what's going on, and you go in there and disturb that, you are tearing apart what's going to help you break down that residue and take out the things that you need in order to make it plant available for the next crop. So I've moved to just no-till on the cover crops because I want to preserve that fungal population as much as I can so that the biology can do its job. It can break down the residue and give me the nutrients that I need for the next season.
Yeah, I love it. So as we wrap up here, what are you most excited about looking into 2026?
I'm excited. I was able to have a band of local sheep. They came and was able to graze on the cover crop that I had this year. It was the best cover crop I've had. The cover crops keep getting better every year because the soil keeps getting better every year. And I'm really excited to the soil test this spring. When I first started out, I had organic matter of 1.62, and starting in 2025, it was 1.89.
Okay.
And so it should be, I should have crested over to organic matter, which is a milestone for me. And I'm excited to see what benefits I get from the sheep that came on the farm and grazed the cover crops.
Love it. Sounds like slowly you are implementing each of the soil health principles strategically, methodically, and very good.
The hurdle now, the bottleneck, the thing that is keeping me at the next challenge is the diversity. So I have been growing malt barley and I need to diversify. I need to uh, be able to find a crop that I can grow and get a contract for and be able to grow something that's good quality, get it inspected, and then be able to fulfill the contract. And from my experience, from what I'm seeing, this is probably one of the biggest hurdles in the ag industry is we are in the different areas that we are limited on the contracts that are available and the options that we have in order to grow things that could help us out. And by no means am I saying that I'm not blessed to have the contracts in the area that I do. I'm very grateful for that. But in order to progress forward, to be able to increase the soil health and thereby increase the quality of the crop the cash crop that's coming off of there. I do need to diversify, and it's becoming quite a struggle in order to locate a contract to be so that I can be able to grow something that diversifies my crop rotation.
Yeah. As you were saying that, a question comes to mind. Do you think that you would ever transition to perennial pasture? And is there an economic viability standpoint? Could livestock grazing ever compete with the current contracts that you have in place?
Yes, my goals in the coming years, I want to reintroduce livestock back onto the farm. And I believe that there are opportunities where you'd be able to grow pasture or some type of system that you can quote rest the soil and be able to put livestock on it, be able to move into that next tier of soil health and be able to integrate and have livestock on there. And there are contracts out there that do have for forages and grasses and so that's what I'm looking into the future with.
Yeah. So again, well, this has been great. I appreciate those that are here live and those that are listening in. Any final thoughts that you have, Mike?
If you're on the edge and you're still considering it, give it a try. Try a small portion on your field and see if it does any benefit for you. And give it a real effort. Really try to test it against what you're already doing and to get the extra education. There's a lot of good video content that's out there, and there are a lot of good people to contact in order to ask questions so that you can make informed decisions on what you want to do.
Yeah. Amen. I think that's great. So hopefully all of you got some takeaways. You've got some notes. We're going to open it up for some informal Q&A here as we wrap this up for those that are on live, but encourage you to make one small change. Whatever, look back on your notes and even prayerfully say, what's the one thing that I can do this year? Generally, it's kind of foolish to try to jump in and do a bunch, but like Mike said, test, start somewhere, get started. And we know that the current system that we're operating under, which is degenerative, which degrades soil, which is largely not profitable, especially if you remove the subsidies, is not sustainable from an economic standpoint, from an ecological standpoint, and a lot of times from our own health, our peace of mind, even our physical health. The very things that are being applied to our fields are poisoning us. And so the time is ripe and ready to have some change. And I think that with what is happening right now from the top down, there, meaning the government and the Make America Healthy Again, and some of these movements that are turning more towards regenerative, like we have an opportune time to be able to make this shift. And so, like Mike said, if you're on the fence, we encourage you to continue to plug into the things that we're doing. There's the Utah Soil Health Conference, which is coming up. We talked about that before we started the recording. It's happening soon. If you're here in the West, it's worth the travel. It's even worth a plane flight to be able to go to that. Understanding Ag is another great resource. If you're looking at whether you're a farmer or a rancher, they have classes that will speak to you. And here at Ag Steward, this is what we do. We take the practices and combine it with the human element to make sure that as you adopt this, you're profitable and you're creating the quality of life that will invite that next generation into the business, because there's the economic viability and there's the fun aspect to it. And that creates a legacy so that when your children, grandchildren, and on down the road come back to and walk the land that you've stewarded, that they'll be able to see the impact that you've had. And so with that, thank you for joining. We hope you'll join us on another one here soon and catch the recordings. Those of you who have subscribed, you'll get the recording texted and emailed to you as soon as it's made available here in a few days. So God bless everyone, and we'll catch you on another one here soon. Okay, there we go.